What's going on, everybody? Welcome to tonight's broadcast of the Aegis Champions League. We are coming at you with the upper side semifinals matchup between two of my favorites to make the finals, Mirage Alliance and CCG Esports. My name is Gordo. I'm joined today by TDS as always. And TDS, we're starting to get into the real late rounds of the tournament here. We're starting to get some of our best teams exclusively, and Mirage Alliance and CCG, they're definitely going to be among them.
It's the point of the season where you kind of don't want to reach because you know that it's coming to an end soon enough, but also the point where you get to see the stronger teams battle it out for either the championship or get closer to the championship. And these are going to be really interesting matches because, like you're pointing out, Gordo, these are two teams that even before we started ACL were clear favorites. Maybe Mirage Alliance just a tad bit above CCG, but overall they were clear favorites to try and get to this point and try and take everything out. So we're getting potentially an early look at a grand finals. There is going to be some complications, so maybe not the exact picture of what the grand finals could look like, but at the very least, two teams that we have high expectations for, certainly.
Yeah, for sure. So we do have word. It looks like there's going to be two emergency substitutes coming in for CCG in today's games. We'll see if they stay the entire time or if it's just going to be coming in for game number one. But it does look like it is going to be Broken Mirror coming in, we assume, in the mid lane, and City Witty coming in, we assume, at Marksman. I mean, neither of those are 100% for sure. They could be rotating some more players around elsewhere, but pretty sure Topo, Kitsuo, and Ditro are still going to be here, and presumably everybody's going to be playing the roles that they generally play. So I'm going to make a bet that those are going to be where everybody's assigned. So going to be a little bit of a different roster makeup, and it's going to cost them all of their bans as long as they're running two E-subs. So a bit of a rough situation for CCG Esports.
At the very least, Gordo, it's not the first time it's happened on the ACL. We already kind of had to deal with a similar situation last split with a team with no bans coming into an important matchup and trying to play around with it. CCG is certainly a team that I would argue is one of those that could be to a certain degree fine giving up their 5 bans, but certainly having to play with a different roster, that's going to be a different story. At the very least, though, keeping the 3 players playing on their typical positions and also 3 players that are already part of the team, it's something that could give an opportunity to CCG to play around what they know. That being said, certainly changing the 2 carries can impact some of their macro style, some of their attempts at trying to put resources into those players. And maybe later on, towards the later parts of the game, we see issues with team fighting and things like that because communication with the carries and the rest of the team may be an issue for them.
Yeah, I could definitely see that ending up playing out that way. And it's, going to be a bit of a different draft strategy for both teams coming in light of that, right? You never know exactly how this is going to influence the drafts, but it does mean that you kind of get this weird situation, right? Where Mirage Alliance gets to just run out 3 bans here. They don't really have to wait and guess and check and see what's coming out of the other side. They're just going to fire off 3 champions that they don't want to see in this draft and then make first pick. So 4 moves in a row for Mirage Alliance here. Let's see how exactly they intend to use them. They're taking a little bit to get started on draft here. Maybe they're asking themselves those very same questions, like, what exactly do we do in draft when the opponent makes no moves for the first 4 selections? That's not something that happens very often.
It's really weird that we end up seeing a situation like this. So certainly dynamics between teams change around, and I'm really interested in seeing what Mirage Alliance does try to go for in this sort of situation, right? Because one strategy would be don't ban any of the strong champions, just leave everyone open. You take the strongest, give up 2, and then take the last strong champion for yourself, trying to equal things out, and in that way you secure the strongest champions, at the very least in your eyes, for yourself. The other strategy could be ban the 3 strongest champions that you think there are, and then pick the 4th strongest. That way, even if there is no clear cut OP, you take like the last one you think it's there, and then they are just left with the remainder of the champions, not S tier, but just the rest.
Or, I mean, the beauty of it, right? You ban numbers 2 through 4, and then you pick number 1. It's not.
Yeah, that also works.
CCG cannot really do anything about it. So, yeah, there's not really like a Nico level uber broken champion on this patch, I wouldn't say. We are in a post Kaisa nerf society, So and even then, I don't think Kai'Sa was ever quite.
Yeah.
Kai'Sa was never even really like. Don't get me wrong. I've been ranting about Kai'Sa every single week, every single stream. I'm on broadcast ranting about Kai'Sa 4 days a week, baby. But it's not been as bad as like Nico was immediately post rework. There's champions that this kind of situation would completely ruin the game with. I don't think we quite have that tier coming on through from Mirage Alliance. But yeah, I mean, definitely if CCG drops this game 1, they are going to want blue side. It is definitely much, much better to be blue side in this scenario than it is to be red side. But they're going to have to start it off on red side. So this is going to be arguably the toughest draft position I have ever seen a competitive team play from. So let's see how Topo and the CCG boys try to navigate it.
There's going to be a lot of things that are going to be fun to look out for in this draft, how it goes. Also, champions that we potentially could see entering the stage in some positions. Obviously, we are post Kai'Sa nerfs, technically, once again, quotations nerfs. Technically, so there could be a bit of a lower priority towards her, still a pickable champion. I think there's still really good champions that are around in the meta that you can go for. Particularly, I'm hugely up on the Aatrox. I think Aatrox, a really good champion right now, has a lot of positions to be picked, can be played really well into certain matchups. So overall, a champion I'm looking out for. Serath as well has been picked more recently. There's been multiple people playing the champion, and I'm really glad because the champion is really strong. The buffed ultimate really does make a difference, and I'm really glad that it's gaining more traction, even though we saw a sad scene yesterday in the NA scene with Tenacity getting eliminated after picking the Serath. I still think it's a strong enough champion, and I'm excited to see it coming through. And then other scaling champions as well that are slowly but surely appearing more into the mid lane, like the Azul, the Cassiopeia, the Six as well. These are champions that are popping up slowly but surely because of some of the changes that other mid lane champions received before.
Yeah, so I'm going to make a call here on what path I think they're going to try to go for. It is, so jungle meta getting real changed on this patch. They've nerfed all the top dog junglers. Maokai's nerfed, Sejuani's nerfed, Ivern nerfed. So with that in mind, and with the fact that Mirage have Chad on the roster, if they think you can play carry junglers, I think this is probably the path to go and try to secure yourself one. So, they ban XYZ. I'm not even going to try to make calls on those, but you could take yourself that free B1. Maybe it's a Kindred, maybe it's a Graves, something like that to try to construct their team comp around. That wouldn't be a huge surprise to me. If there's a tier 1 support or something they want, that's also an option that they could try to go for. The first ban out the gate is going to be that Rengar, though.
Opting into one of those carry junglers, taking away the Rengar, looking at the Puppey as well to maybe try and deny the dash value, the dash denial value that the Puppey does have, and then going for the Twitch. So not the typical kind of ban phase that we would expect, but Kai'Sa still up there, first pick for the side of Mirage Alliance. I was expecting maybe a bit less priority, but I won't go against the Kai'Sa. I don't think she got that nerfed, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a strong champ. We're not out of the B1 Kai'Sa woods just yet. We're gonna be here maybe until Worlds. We'll see.
Yeah,
there's still some more patches. It could change up
that, or they release the KDA skin and then we still have to deal with Kai'Sa at Worlds.
It could happen. It could happen. The Poppy ban doesn't surprise me at all. That's dedicated up towards Topo. That's his favorite. It's his most played. Not surprised. They're not going to let that one come through. Gets banned against CCG more than any other pick.
Yep.
The Twitch ban is an interesting one. Maybe this is the City Witty special sauce. I'm going to be honest. I'm not super familiar with City Witty as an 80 carry player. I followed him very closely in the NACL as a jungler. I did not get to catch nearly as many of his games since he has swapped over to ADC in recent months. So we will see what he goes for. Yep. He might be piloting this Tristana. It might be going to Broken Mirror in the mid lane. That is a couple of very high prio champions that CCG have managed to secure themselves in the first round.
Well, with the amount of bans that come through from different kind of champions, I think this is a pretty straightforward, strong picks that the side of CCG does manage to get and can be flexed around. This is still not yet sure if it's a bot lane. You can flex this out for either mid lane and jungle. for each of these champions. Not really Tristana in the jungle, but obviously you can flex it around in multiple positions, and that opens up a lot of opportunities for CCG to really try and go into different areas with their team comp. On the other side, with the Syndra and the Viego picked, I feel a pretty much straightforward composition so far for the side of Mirage Alliance. They want to go towards that late sort of stage where you have a lot of value with your carries, good team fighting potential, and also potential to just outrange the enemy team with the Syndra and the Kais as well. So really interesting choice. Meanwhile, listen, they want to run this early game on the side of CCG.
They definitely do, and that's a Kitsuo classic right there, coming out of the jungle. Kitsuo, been a mainstay of the amateur scene for a very long time, always been a big Lee Sin player, is going to secure that one for himself. He's a big Jarvan player as well, so don't be surprised if you end up seeing that one make some appearances in picks and bans throughout today's series. The Viego doesn't surprise me at all for Chad either. This guy is a carry jungle expert. He's been carrying from the jungle in the academy scene / NACL scene for a very long time, fighting to get his way back there right now, and having a very solid season in the NACLQ circuit while he's doing it, as well as the rest of this team. I mean, they've all just been fantastic. Sudzi on the Syndra, going to be very dangerous up against, we assume, this Tristana. It's going to be a really fun matchup between some really high priority mid laners there.
Honestly, the more I think about it, with the bans that are coming through, both AP champions that do have a bit of range but also can play into the team fighting, I'm kind of thinking maybe the Seraphine could be a thing for CCG here. We have seen it over in the NECL in the in last week of play from Fear, particularly going for that Seraphine, buffing up a carry champion, trying to make a lot of damage with it. And I think this could be an angle for the Seraphine to pop her head up. The Ornn here, not to reveal much, and also a pretty safe champion in the top lane to try and have a stable lane to play around with, and then you have the more carry oriented on the other side of the map. But it feels like this should be, or it feels so far with how it's been set up, that they are leaving the counter pick for the bot lane particularly.
Yeah, definitely trying to save themselves that last pick. I mean, and the Tristana's a flex, right? So you can last pick mid too and take the Tristana into bot lane if you'd like. But there's going to be that Aatrox taken into the Ornn. I expect to see CCG really specializing in those tanks. That's what Topo is always known for. So they're going to look to be supporting him from that position. And now the Aatrox and the Alistar are going to come through to round things out for Mirage. And CCG, they're flipping through mid laners. They're looking like they want to take this Tristana in the bot lane. It'll be solid up against Kai'Sa Alistar. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's a champion that can outrange and can outtrade the Kai'Sa in this early game, and it's got that buffer to try to get out of Alistar combos. So I'm not going to be mad at that as a duo at all. And then you could take something maybe a little bit safer into Sudzi's Syndra, or something that could potentially outrange it in the form of this Lux, and that's what they're going to lock in. So going to be a little bit of an off-meta selection coming into the mid lane to represent that magic damage for CCG.
I was actually waiting to see if they go for the Orianna in that spot. Not a bad champion, would have been really interesting. Or the Taliyah, they also hovered a champion, which, if I'm not wrong, did receive a couple of buffs in this patch. So it could have been a nice attempt at going for something that did get a bit of love in the current patch. But it's going to be the Lux, and does provide good wave clear, does have good catch potential, so you can catch people really easily with the Rel, the Lee Sin, and the Lux now. And then team fighting wise, it's not like she stays really far behind from other mid laners. Obviously, she requires a much specific kind of way of playing for team fights to work out for her, but overall I do think that she fits in the comp, especially for early picks, can be really ideal. That being said, I do think that Mirage Alliance comp is a bit more cohesive in the idea of trying to go for team fights, and if nobody gets picked up, could be really difficult for CCG to find certain angles in fights.
Yeah, I think they've built up really effectively around this Viego and this Aatrox. The reset potential in these fights is going to be huge for Mirage, and they have great access to starting that reset train going. They've got Kai'Sa, who can rocket herself into the back line, make those assassinations, and the single target pick potential that Syndra brings to the table with the unleashed power, going to allow Sudzi to really just pick a target and melt them down. The Lux, the Tristana, the Lee Sin, they're all going to be eligible targets here if they end up going for them, and that's definitely something to be on the lookout for Also, really want to highlight for CCG this rel for Detro. I mean, he's been a big star player for CCG. Our good friend Slayer is constantly casting this team over on the CCG channel whenever we aren't picking them up for the mainstream. And he has had so many good things to say to me about Detro this season and how big of a carry force he has been from the support position. Now he's going to be on this rel, a super high priority champion, even in patches past. And on this patch, she's not nerfed. She's bug adjusted. She's stronger, arguably, because she has less of these weird, funky interactions that have constantly been messing things up for rel players at every level.
And that's why we still see her priority be up there with the Kai'Sa. The fact that she didn't get that hit and she also didn't lose that much in the previous patches, I think is still a really viable support, has a lot of value, has something that every support player essentially likes, and is CC that can be CC'd by herself. Like, you typically want to have this sort of champions. That's why I would argue one of the main reasons why Nautilus, Leona, and Alistar were so consistently picked for a certain point in time, particularly more Nautilus and Leona, it's that their CC chain is so easily achievable by themselves that in every comp you can kind of put them in and they would find value. And Rel has precisely that. And apart from that, the stats that she gains is still really valuable in general and provides enough survivability that your team can follow up on you even if you go that dip. And to follow a bit onto what Slayer said, I agree. I haven't catched every match of CCG like Slayer has been able to, but certainly whenever you watch their matches, Detroit is such an important force in not only trying to make things happen, but how they are slowly setting up for them to happen. And I really want to give value to the support player as well, because it's how he wants to set them up that makes CCG really shine through in a lot of the plays of the game.
Yeah, and Detro himself, you know, facing off against this real all-star roster that Mirage Alliance have assembled themselves, he's one of those players that's really looking to push himself into that next category alongside these guys. He's been fighting to try to get into NACL for a while. He's been on some really solid teams in amateur. He's had some really great showings, you know, had some other efforts to get onto some of these really competitive teams that have ended up falling a little bit short, but has constantly been making the effort and has been looking better year on year, in my opinion. So I'm really excited to see this guy try to take some next steps up. And one of those steps he's hoping is going to be with this CCG roster here in ACL and in other runs. He's playing on their main roster as well in NACL queues, I do believe. So has been having some solid runs himself, and really excited to see how he is going to be able to perform here in particular.
It's all going to be on how they are able to perform. Now, we need to also make it clear this particular series is going to be much tougher on CCG for the reasons we mentioned before, right? No bans, as you can see on the corner right there. No bans on one side to the 5 on the other. The fact that they are playing with 2 ESOPs makes it a bit more difficult going against a team, like we've said, Mirage Alliance, favorite to win it all from a lot of the analysts and everyone involved in Aegis. So certainly going to be a tough task for CCG to do, with all these conditions involved, do something really difficult against Mirage Alliance. I wouldn't put it past them, but with the fact that they do have this specific set of conditions, it's kind of difficult to see it happening tonight, sadly.
Yeah, this is really the only matchup in ACL where CCG don't come in with the star power, right? They're in every other matchup, they're the team with the big names, right? They're the team. I already talked about Detro plenty. Tapo has been in the AM scene for forever. Kitsuo, Radar when he's here. All of these guys are constantly in there. Rockboom himself is an ACL finalist from our last split in the ACL when he was playing over with St. Clair. And even now, City Witty, right? He's still a big name in his own right. But you're facing off against Mirage Alliance. There's 3 XLCS players on this team. This team is really built to dominate and are going to be looking to do that, especially facing off against a squad that has some extra barriers in their way from being able to show their full potential in the loss of those bans in the E-substitute situation that's presenting itself for them here. So they definitely have a bit of an uphill climb in front of them here. But as you said, they're looking to try to make something happen in this early game. I think they have a really good setup to be able to do it. Kitsuo Yasuo coming in with the Lee Sin from the jungle, going to be looking to likely set up a lane like bot lane to get ahead here. The Tristana has massive snowball power in its own right. This Lux, you know, you can always cheese out a kill on Lux. It's not often a staple of the meta,
Yeah.
but when it comes in either at mid or at support, it is always at risk of potentially popping off. And you've got Topo as that rock in the top lane who will always be there to support you in the late game fights and is always going to be a huge frontline threat.
And this is probably one of the best ways to try and equal out the difference in skill, maybe, or the difference in team value, maybe, in that sense. It's that you have the tools to pull off the plays by yourself. You are the one that says, we go in and we decide when to go in. And with champions like the Ornn, like the Rel, you do have that choice by yourself, and thus make you, at the very least, be the proactive one. And I think a lot of teams do value this sort of execution-based comps, more so because they are the ones that are pulling the trigger, not waiting for the enemy team to do it. I value Mirage Alliance comp a little bit more, but CCGs is something that I would argue a lot of other teams would love to play with because of how it's executed and how it's typically seen and used, really.
Yeah, they have a lot of proactivity. They really get to decide when things happen and where. Mirage, they can get fights started too, but they're really reliant on either a flank or like the Alistar to do it, right? They don't have those super traditional go buttons. The Aatrox and the Viego, you know, they're bringing in damage, they're bringing in flanking power, they're bringing in reset potential, but they don't necessarily get the fight started in the way that something like an Ornn Ultimate or a Rel are going to. They're really going to be reliant on Dardoch on the Alistar here to be that engage force for them. Not to say that he can't do it, but you know, you get hit by a Lux binding, you get stunned by the Rel, you get kicked away as the Alistar. It's actually going to start to get very difficult for Mirage to start these fights. And CCG, they have an array of tools to boot out an individual champion. So when all of your eggs are in that Alistar basket, that could be a chance for CCG to make a move.
And they have to take their opportunities like that every time they can. It's the setting up to it for when we jump into the game. Now that we're going in, it's a composition that wants to fight for long, but it's a composition that wants to blow the fight as soon as possible. And whoever is able to execute on that better is going to find more value. But with ourselves, so I think there was a slight pause. We're waiting to just restart, but we're already in game, so it's just waiting for everything to move out. And I'm really curious if we're going to get a level 1. CCG has a really good level 1 to start off with the Rel, and also with the potential of the bind from the Luke, so it could be a really interesting dynamic to see in there.
There we go. And we got past our little bit of a break to start on in here. We are on to the Rift for game number 1 of our upper side semifinals matchup between Mirage Alliance and CCG Esports. The winner of this best of 3 will move themselves into the best of 5 stage. They will get to go and play in that winner's side final. Really, both of these teams, they've already locked themselves a best of 5 somewhere or other, as even those that lose out, they will be dropping to those lower side quarterfinals, which will be best of 5s themselves.
Exactly. Even if they don't find the opportunity here, they are going to find it eventually. And getting to those BO5s is so important for them because it's giving them more time in a series to find their opportunities to succeed and find a lot of value into. So going to be really excited to see how it goes and who their opponents will be later on, depending on how the match ends up going. But for now, with the start of the game, no level 1. I'm kind of sad because I was kind of looking forward for it. But pretty straightforward start. Everyone just watching a certain place and trying to get a bit of damage on each other.
Yep. Going to be a little bit of poke damage coming through from Broken Mirror. Onto Sudsy. That is Sudsy in the mid lane. That is Dardoch on Alistar. These guys not using their regular screen names on their account names for the time being, but everybody else is who they say they are.
Exactly. Of course, it does happen sometimes in that sense, but not going to be an issue at the very least for now. And interestingly enough, just to quickly point out, different starts from each of the junglers, starting on different sides of the map, showing that maybe the Lee Sin wants to try and pile up much more at the bot side, and it makes sense since you do have an Ornn to start the game.
You do, so gonna be that early trade coming through from Alorum on the top side. Should have some good game into this Ornn, should be able to kind of have his way with the lane. It's just going to be a matter of Topo trying to survive, trying to farm up, and trying to get to those later levels where he gets to represent the upgrades for the rest of the team. It is a path towards the bottom side coming through from Kitsuo. Broken Mirror paying a little visit towards the jungle to just check what's going on. He does see that the birds are... All right, there was only one bird left, so it just despawned. So he knows that Chad has pathed up towards the top side. Kitsuo going to be able to make the most out of that information. But look at this path from Chad. He's actually looping back around and is going to find his way onto Broken Mirror, who does have to flash away, but a nice double snare. Broken Mirror's out of here.
Yeah, not going to die, does take quite a bit of damage, but also did attack quite a bit onto Chad. Still like the idea that Chad went for there, like you're pointing out, going a bit over to the side while the Lux was pushing the wave and also finding the angle onto the jungle to set himself up and find a really good gank, blowing the flash out of the Lux and now also the teleport. Perfectly could turn into a second gank soon enough, especially because the Lux is one of the better champions to just out push you consistently. That means that if she does push too far forward, that's going to be when Chad is going to go in and kill her.
Would be the moment. Sees the opportunity, but so far it is the expended flash and the expended TP, but Broken Mirror is still keeping up in farm just fine. Topo takes a rough trade in the top side, but is sitting all right. And here's a little engage from Detro, just trying to get some poke damage, maybe to set up for a future gank, but Dardoch is in there to trade back. City Witty jumps in with the rocket jump, trying to just pump out as much damage as he can. Kitsuo's here as well, but the health bars just aren't low enough. The play is not going to present itself.
Not going to be enough to try and threaten for a kill, but they do get the flash out of Dardoch, so at the very least there's a small window of opportunity to now try and look for bot lane. Pretty weird decision there to try and re-engage by the Alistar. Not like it's necessarily bad, but the Kai'Sa was a bit too far away to try and force onto the Tristan as well, so it just ends up being a trade of damage and then the flash from the Alistar.
Kitsuo paying a visit towards mid now, lands the Sonic Wave, but Chad is there for backup, and we'll just go on in with that Maw. It's a good bit of damage, traded back and forth on both sides, and Broken Mirror not going to be able to land that stun. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, seeing Kitsuo in mid is all that Neo and Dardoch need to start going aggressive, and they get a big trade.
Really good trade down there in the bot lane. I think unlucky. Wait. Oh, perfect. Of course.
That's a rough one. Goes down for first blood. Mono e mono versus Alorum. Alorum is going to be well ahead in this lane now, crashing, going to be able to get the reset. He's up 2 waves of CS and gets that first blood gold.
And it's not the first time we've seen top lane being this attacked by Alorum. He was doing such a good job pushing consistently onto the Ornn, and this is the difficulty of this sort of matchups. You can play them out, but if you have some alone jam and you misplay any of the traits, that can end up affecting you. Gank?
All right, here's the play bot again. They're going on to Dardoch. He doesn't have ultimate. He doesn't have flash. He will go down. Nitro ends up with the kill, and Kitsuo is burning down. Dardoch will get that trade back, and Neo is safe enough to just be able to stay in lane and keep on farming. Mirage Alliance, they get their way out of there with a little bit of extra luck on that burn down on Kitsuo.
In a 3v2, they are able to turn it around and get a good kill onto Kitsuo. And I was kind of curious why they were holding so long to try and engage onto the cow, but that's the reason why. Plays it out so well. Dardoch able to buy enough time and gets the kill onto the jungler. Really good play overall so far by Mirage Alliance, denying the attempts from CCG and really not giving them enough opportunities to find a lot of value.
Yeah, and the fact that Detro ends up with the kill, super unfortunate there for CCG. They really would have liked to get that early money onto City Witty and try to snowball away with it, or even onto Kitsuo. But the burn down from Detro is what ends up picking it up, and it means Urel, she's got CDR boots a little bit early perhaps, but otherwise not going to be able to have that snowball-y effect in this bottom lane.
She maybe gets one more W or Q in a fight, and that's going to be, hey, that can be a difference maker actually. Not going to say it couldn't, but overall the fact that they do get more value onto their Kai'Sa and also onto the carries of Mirage Alliance, because it's not only this Kai'Sa looking all over the map. The Syndra is doing a good enough job, maybe not pushing enough of the issue onto the Lux wave.
A little aggressive invade here. Sudsy gets the wave pushed in. Dardoch is here as well. Detro a little bit late to the action, but Tetsuo going in to try to steal, going to get it taken away by Chad, and Chad staying alive with just a little HP. Kitsuo will be able to trade it back, and Dardoch actually ends up with the kill. Here's Call the Forge God from the top side, but Alorum coming in with the World Ender, going to start swinging that sword around as Dardoch is just buying as much time as he can. He will go down to the Bellows Breath from Topo, as now it's Sudsy on the wrong side, getting knocked up by by a searing charge, and Broken Mirror gets that kill. It's 3 going over to CCG.
Yeah, that was so many sequence of misplays by the side of Mirage Alliance. Really, they had it there to be able to collectively win that fight really effectively, but slight mechanical misplays end up affecting the way that that fight goes. Mechanical and communication misplays. Wade, but ooh, Trist.
Oh, knock away from Neo. Is CityWitty heading to the hills here? Just wants to make sure he's going to be able to keep himself safe. Detro arriving just a little bit too late, as does Dardoch. Both AD carries going to be low on HP.
It's not going to accomplish much of a 1v in the 1v1 down there. They did get the ultimate from Tristana, so maybe a win in some way, a small win, really.
All right, so I did TDS just check my DMs from Krim over on CCG. Broken Mirror is DNA. I didn't realize this. I wasn't up to date on all of my solo queue usernames, but this is DNA. That makes this Lux make a lot more sense. DNA I know of as a Lux player, and DNA a face we're all a little bit more familiar with. So apologies for the lack of information there, but now we know.
And we need to complete the information that we're given. And now that we get it, it's all good, because now we know a bit more on the looks pick. And certainly to try and play with a champion that they are comfortable with is going to be much, much better for CCG. And so far has been really good. Getting that kill over in the jungle, not dying so far, to slightly behind in CS, but overall doing a really good job.
Yeah, definitely going to be picking up an even game state so far for CCG. They're down just about 600 gold, but not too bad, all things considered, and just trying to keep this wave cleared on out. Kitsuo actually starting off the dragon on the bottom side. We'll see if they're going to be able to secure that for themselves. Chad is up on top, so they're probably not going to be able to do anything about this. This should be going on over to the side of CCG.
Pretty free Drake, no contest realistically should be able to be accomplished here. And with how some of the fights have gone and how the bot lane started, really weird that until this point we actually got the first dragon of the game. And by the way, also apparently Kenzie looks is a bit ahead in CS, so doing a really good job. DNA over in the mid lane with that in mind as well. Also, we get both bad dragons out of the way. Cloud and Hextech and Chemtech going to be the first one, so we actually get a good soul.
Definitely going to be a guaranteed good soul for CCG here. One of the better ones at the very least. And yeah, as you said, that counter pick for DNA in the mid lane working out very well up against Sudsy was what they saved that R5 pick for, and it's paying off so far. The Lux doing very well into that Syndra. This Chad is still hovering around mid lane, but the wave is already at the turret. He's not going to be able to find himself too much here, as many members hovering around this bottom side. CityWitty and Detro have got to be careful about a potential dive.
I would think that they want to try and play it so that they can push the wave and utilize this Rift Herald as aggressively as possible. Particularly, ooh, early flash, really good there.
Yep, that's going to be DNA. Getting that summoner spell used, but at the very least going to keep themselves safe and alive. And you know what? That's what they used the first flash on, and they didn't need it again until just now. So as long as they have it up every time they need it, they are getting the most mileage possible, and they are keeping themselves safe.
Oh.
Here's a big play onto Neo. A nice attempt by CityWitty to knock him underneath the turret, but just not quite getting the angle. Drags him up against the wall a little bit and loses some of that momentum. Mirage going to keep themselves safe in the bottom lane, but Neo does have to expend the ultimate.
It's ultimate now out of the Kai'Sa, which could set up for a potential play, but overall, Wade,
Detro up very far, uses the crash down to try to escape, but he is going to end up melted down, and Neo going to be able to cleanse his way out to safety, getting rid of that burn, and now CityWitty up too far, going to melt down to the Acathian Rain. A double kill comes through for Neo.
And Detro goes a bit too far forward. I'm pretty sure he wasn't using the lens there, so doesn't know that Dardoch was actually waiting there. But still, gets picked up out of position, cannot use anything out of the combo from the rail, and gets immediately exploded by the Kai'Sa, and kind of baits Tristana CityWitty into an awful spot there. Really good to also keep up the impact from this Kai'Sa so far, because with the plays that happened topside, they kind of affected a bit of the Mirage Alliance's power spikes. But now with this, Kai'Sa is just going to keep on getting more and more.
Yeah, super strong position for Neo with that static shiv already completed, going to be a decent chunk of that 2k gold lead that Mirage built up for themselves. A lot of the rest of it is going to be on Alorum up here in this top lane, who has built up his CS lead to about 30 at this point. taking the turret plate for himself as well, and is just continuing to keep Topco on the back foot.
Not surprising, no, basing it off the matchup, but certainly going to be so impactful as well to try and have another power point. You always want to have this. 2 power points that your jungler can make the most use of in the map is going to be great for Chad. Because even if he doesn't gank, which he technically could just go and gank multiple lanes, he now has a lot of free space to either go inside of the jungle and have help from his team quite easily, or set up this sort of plays with the Rift Herald.
Rift Herald coming into bot side, and it looks like Chad is just waiting for the response, going all in on the DNA and gonna blow him up for the first kill of the fight. And now it's Kitsuo, who's up way too deep, gonna get snared up by that light binding and is gonna get taken down. 2 kills to Mirage Alliance as they get the crash on the bottom side.
And this was one of the big mistakes that we saw in that first fight towards that red side, the red side jungle from CCG, that now it wasn't that prevalent on the side of Mirage Alliance. They focused on one specific target, the 2 of them. In that fight, in that previous fight, one went for the Lee Sin, the other went for the locks, and that's why with separated focuses, they were able to kill Chad really easily without allowing for him to get the reset early on. But this time around, focusing everything onto the locks, they blow her up, and immediately with that first reset from the Viego, everything is doomed for them. They cannot stop the Viego from getting every value, and killing other targets was quite easy as well.
Cute idea there by Topo, trying to get a nice knock up onto Alorum while he's underneath the turret, but hitbox just not quite large enough, and he will just get that turret plate back on the way to continue his farm. Now a bigger and bigger CS lead being built up for Mirage off that bot side play. Up about 5k now. Kitsuo paying a visit towards mid. Here comes Detro. They have the numbers advantage for a couple of seconds, focusing the damage there onto Sudzi, but Dardoch is a big frontline force. But here comes the crash down from Detro. They blow up Sudzi to start off the fight, and now they have an even larger numbers advantage, locking down on a Dardoch before that ultimate runs out, and he will drop the city. Now it's going to be Chad, the next target, focused down one at a time. The Mirage Alliance squad fall, and CCG get themselves 3.
Really well played. They collapse there with multiple numbers advantage and take advantage of the misplay once again from the side of Mirage Alliance. Really weird to see Sotsi walk back in after Dardoch already did essentially everything to keep the Syndra alive. Sotsi positions himself back into a place where he's going to get engaged, dies immediately because he has no way to escape now after the matter, and then kills Dardoch and kills Shot Jungle as well in the process. Really weird choice, really weird sequence of events, and this brings CCG at the very least closer to being back into the game. We still have to consider that Kai'Sa has 2 items, but apart from that, they are closer now.
Hey, you keep taking fights without the Kai'Sa. Those Kai'Sa items do not matter.
True.
CCG have done a good job of keeping that the case. Are also the first ones to get mid lane turret, so they do have that little bit of openness to the map. But DNA maybe up a little bit too far here. Chad is coming on up. There's just going to be a flash forward and unleash power, and Chad finishes off the kill. DNA down to the bot side.
Unleashed power may not be executing just yet, but with Chad on the side, certainly gets the kill. Really nice pickup. They are finding these sort of plays that for every one messy fight that they get really good plays all over the map. They're going to get this kill into the Yorn and now move to get this turret as well.
No chance for Topo up there. Very outnumbered, very outgunned. Will lose his tower as well. The rest of the CCG squad are coming towards this side of the map. They want to try to snag themselves a Rift Herald while the recalls are coming through, and there's enough members heading back to home that I think they'll be able to get it.
I don't think there's going to be enough opportunity here for Mirage to try and contest this, but it's actually
everybody coming on up here. Sudzi, the first to arrive, finds himself Detro. They do manage to secure the Rift Herald, but they can't even pick up the eye. They've got to bail on this plan right away as Alorum has popped the World Ender and is just hunting down 3 members. He takes down City Witty. He takes down DNA, and that's both carries dropping to the Aatrox while the rest of the team finishes off the fight on the other side. A 4-for-0 for Mirage Alliance.
They really looked fortified in that position. It was looking like they were going to just reset, give up that Rift Herald, but because it's not that valuable, the objective as a whole really doesn't net you that much, but it's more so what you can do with the objective later, especially post blades. It's really not that big. But here Mirage Alliance say we don't care about the Herald, really. It's more the fact that they are committing so heavily for it that gives us the opportunity to go for a fight, and they commit for the fight so effectively. Get a perfect flank value. Chad should be fine here. I don't think he's dying. Yeah, he's fine. They find the perfect flank angle with from Alarium up there with the Aatrox, and then they destroy everyone in the team fight. Beautifully played, beautifully set up, and really good chance to now get an even higher lead.
Yeah, that's the backbreaker right there, TDS. They get themselves up to about 8K in the lead. They take themselves plenty more of the standing turrets. All the outers now going to be down in favor of Mirage, and they are well prepared to be able to take this Dragon Soul Point fight. That's going to be coming up in about 2 minutes.
Really? Wait.
Trying to chase down Alorum. He's got the kick angle, actually can't get it off. Gets denied the vision due to that control ward. He does go in, gets the kick back. City Witty's here. They're going to try to chase down. They land the final spark, and that will be a kill to Kitsuo. Nice job by the CCG jungler to find an exposed target and hunt them down.
Really well played. They also play it off so that they have an escape route just in case. Wait.
Follow up here, jungler on jungler. Great dodge by Kitsuo on the Heartbreaker as they're gonna lock him down with a Magnet Storm. Another kill goes over to DNA, but look at Neo. He's found a one-on-one with City Witty, and he wins those all day. Next gonna be on to Kitsuo, who has to back off with how low his health bar has fallen, and DNA, the last carry standing, up too far, getting locked down by Dardoch, and a snipe from Neo. Gonna close it out. Now Kitsuo has to try to turn this back around. He's hungry for the kills, but Dardoch is as well, and slams him down with the Pulverize, hunting down onto Detro next, and that's gonna be 4 kills for 1 again to Mirage Alliance.
That shouldn't have worked out that well. At the end, Mirage, with their Kai'Sa being so far ahead, get the kills, get the lead, still in their side, and they even get a top lane turret in the process. So gaining so many advantages everywhere in the map, whilst also not allowing for CCG to get that one pick that they got into Alarim, a shutdown at that, to be of more value. But it was kind of scary. It was looking like Neo maybe was not going to get the kills. The ultimate, even though, gives him the opportunity to kill the Tristana by himself. I feel like the idea was to get on top or closer to Kitsuo and kill him before killing the Tristana. Almost makes it be a bit of a rougher play and kind of outplays himself there, Neo. But at the end, doesn't matter, get the kill. I don't like the fact that they are going for the Ludens on the Kai'Sa, because if I'm not wrong, they nerfed the interaction with it. So now it's technically not that good compared to where it was before, but it still does a lot of damage, so maybe it doesn't matter.
It definitely just wants that sniping damage. Here's going to be the lockdown on Alorum. He's caught once again. City Witty going to get that kill. They're finally managing to get some money back into this Tristana, but for now, she's still stuck on one item, and they definitely wish they were in a stronger position right now. As if they want to keep up their soul stacking, they've got to fight for this dragon. Sudsy already hovering on the bottom side. They do have the numbers advantage, but a huge W lands for Neo, and that's going to be nearly taken out as DNA. This has to back away. Topo dropping low as well, as they're just going to blow Kitsuo up with that Scatter the Weak, and now Dardoch has found his man and is going to hunt him down the rest of the way. It's going to be Chad as the next target. Going forward onto City Witty, cannot get that follow-up resonating strike, and it's just going to be Neo soloing out the dragon on the bottom side.
Kai'Sa pretty much won them that fight. Just the consistent rain of poke from the Kai'Sa, hitting everyone, every important target, almost killing DNA in the mid lane, was such a difficult situation to be in as CCG, even though they got a perfect pick onto Alarim. 5v1, you probably never win that, and he didn't, but it doesn't matter because you're so far ahead on the other members that consistent poke and consistent damage wins you that. And with the dragon, fight 1, with the dragon on their pockets, they also get the Baron Pop. This is a game that is looking quite difficult for CCG, Gordo, not gonna lie.
Yeah, when Kai'Sa starts getting to this position, it starts to become a real problem if you cannot find a way to get onto her and deal with it. And CCG running out of options now, down 9k gold, have lost their dragon stacking. Mirage Alliance have the gold exactly where they would want it, all on this Kai'Sa. They're gonna have to hope for a massive mistake from Neo if CCG wants to fight back here.
Well, at the very least, they do have good peak potential. So if Neo mispositions, there's going to be an angle for them to look for. Do I think it's going to happen? No. but you at the very least can hope for it if you're a CCG fan.
Okay, Dardoch. Dardoch is in there. He is hex flashing over the wall into 3 members, and they're just gonna have to let him do it. Like, all right, this space belongs to you now, Dardoch. You have all the fun in the world you want, as they're gonna keep pushing forward in mid lane. They get that turret to about half HP.
See, this is why I laugh at the fact that they nerfed Kai'Sa. Look at the W damage. Like, even if they nerfed some of the interactions and some of the damage, it doesn't matter. It's still so much damage that she's able to pull through over here. They at least get a turret out there in the top side and a bounty, so some gold back into their pockets, but they need the Tristana here if they want to defend.
Yep, starting out of this turret is going to drop pretty quickly. Neo has enough DPS to take that one down with all this AP and this attack speed. They're going to be able to get the inhibitor as well. These Baron minions, they do not have to stop. Going to need somebody with stronger wave clear to come and deal with these. Is Chad up a little bit far, just buying space for the rest of the team. A nice W lands from Sudsy. They're going to follow it up, gets good damage onto Detro. The follow-up W, Neo is hunting people down with these snipes and is just destroying everybody on the side of CCG. There is going to be DNA dropping off the face of the map before the fight even starts, and now it's Toppo is the next target. He's got to flash away, and continuing Void Seekers landing over and over again for Mirage Alliance are pushing back the CCG squad. They're starting out of the Nexus turrets.
Can they win?
Some kind of defense has to be mounted here. Another scout of the week going to pick up the Rel. Now there's a crash down.
It doesn't matter.
As he moves forward onto the rest of the team, the killing spree is picked up for Sudsy, and they're just going to hunt down City Witty next. And finally, CCG out of teammates. Mirage Alliance are going to take this game number 1.
They tried to put a fight early on, but it's not going to matter. Mirage Alliance with such a dominating game 1. They put a stamp on it saying this is ours and you're not going to do anything about it. Great performance by everyone, great performance by Neo, by Alarim, dominating their lane opponents, and you gotta give a huge shout out to Dardoch as well. In the face of everyone from CCG, fearless, went in, gets kills, gets the setup for the team, full value there by the Alistar.
Unbreakable Will gets a lot done there for Mr. Dardoch, as he is constantly in the face of the members of CCG and buying enough space for the rest of the team to be able to do whatever they want. Neo, of course, massive on the Void Seekers, landing them over and over and over again, forcing members out. As champion, it does it all, TDS. I say it every time we're on here, and it still rings true. Great play by Neo, great play across the board there for CCG, but especially carried through that bot lane.
A really big difference there, and they played even situations that were 2v3s in some instances, and they were able to get the better out of them, almost always having control down there. Even with a flash blown early on, it didn't really matter. So full credit to how the bot lane played it. Really nice way of trying to get a gold lead by themselves, and also in the general map, the way that they got the gold lead was really efficient. Obviously, I would argue there were a couple of mistakes here and there that almost could have been good for CCG. If this was, and I don't like to say it like this, but if this was CCG's full roster, could have been opportunities for them to really make it happen. But in this instance, in this situation, with how it's going for CCG, probably was going to be really difficult to make the most out of those situations, and that's why at the end, Mirage Alliance still was just so dominant.
Well, our series is not done here yet, TDS. We do have a best of 3 here tonight, so going to be an opportunity for CCG to strike back in game number 2. They get side selection. Surely they're going to take blue side. Let's see how they're able to change up the game plan with that in mind. We're going to throw it to a quick break while we get into that draft, but we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Aegis Champions League, the upper bracket semifinals matchup between CCG Esports and Mirage Alliance. First game went a little bit as expected, TDS. Mirage Alliance running over that one after they come online in the mid game. Some good looks, though, out of Kitsuo in the bot lane in particular. They managed to make some plays happen. They managed to have some plays go, maybe turned around on them a little bit. But if everything had worked out, this could have been a very competitive game, number one.
I agree, it could have been much closer, especially with some of the opportunities that they got in certain places. But to a certain degree, it was kind of a given that with their comp, if they didn't make things explode earlier in the game, then it was going to be really difficult for them to try and make it work out. And that's pretty much what ended up happening. As soon as a lead was obtained by Mirage, the gates for CCG were kind of closed. But going into the second game, easiest thing to change, it's taking the other side where the enemy team won the game. They still don't have bans. That's the biggest issue here. But on blue side, if for some miracle Mirage leaves up the Kai'Sa, you can take it out now.
Yeah, we'll have to see. CCG, though, in a much better position here. If you're going to have no bans due to E-subs, you want to be on blue side, because it at least means that Mirage doesn't get to just free roll, pick whatever champion they want.
Yep.
So we'll see what they decide to ban here. If I'm Mirage, I'm probably banning away that Kai'Sa, but we could see there's definitely some options left for what they could decide to ban away, and then what CCG can decide to start off their draft with.
Exactly. That can be the easiest way to try and set up for an easier comp to try and play out. I would love to see them try and play something else in the mid lane. Like we were pointing out with Lux, yes, it's a DNA champion, but it's a champion that doesn't get much play for a reason. And it's not like it's necessarily super bad, but you really have to meet certain conditions to make it work. And those conditions were really difficult for CCG to make the best out of. Now, on blue side, they have more opportunities to try and play safer champions in a way, because they are not going to get consistent counter picks. But for mid lane and for jungle, I would try to secure those sort of champions. One champion I feel, if I'm not wrong, wasn't banned in the previous game was Maokai. So could be an opportunity here for CCG to look for the tree and try and secure some sort of easy to execute champion there.
Yeah, it is a little nerfed in the clear department, but it's still the same champ in PvP. It just means, you can't bramble smash your way through the camps quite as fast as you were able to in patches previous, but definitely a selection that teams could still be looking towards if that is what they want to go for. You also, Sejuani, a little bit nerfed on this patch as well, but still has those great pairings, especially if you want to opt in for certain AD top laners. Now, that's not exactly Topo's bread and butter, so it would surprise me to see that one coming through for CCG. And it's not really Chad's either, so maybe a champion that won't end up seeing coming on through in this one, but we'll see exactly what they want to go for once we get started on this draft, and really want to look towards what was successful for CCG last game. They were able to make some plays happen with City Witty on the Tristana, and that is still that powerful flex pick between bot lane and mid lane. That could be a big contender for what they might want to first pick here, assuming that stuff like that Kai'Sa ceases to be available.
I agree, and I think that with that being the more than likely possibility that Kai'Sa be taken away, I would love to see them try and get the Rel once again if it's not picked by Mirage Alliance, or go for another engaged support. Detro, even though it wasn't his best performance, still was able to look for a couple of picks really nicely, a couple of really good CCs on multiple targets, and they were able to kill Dollar in multiple instances thanks to the fact that they had a lot of CC. So if they can go for something similar, could be really, really good for the side of CCG. Now, also want to look out for what does Mirage Alliance trade if they ban the Kai'Sa. In the previous game, if I'm not wrong, it was Twitch, Poppy, and Rengar in the first 3 bans. So if you now put the Kai'Sa there, what do you open up? The Twitch, the Poppy?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of options here. They are almost certainly going to keep that Poppy ban. Do they want to keep the Twitch ban? That one maybe not. But the Rengar, definitely going to get taken away. The Kai'Sa going to get taken away. Do you want to deny the Poppy from Topo is going to be the next question. One thing that becomes dangerous about letting Mirage onto the red side is Alorum is a guy who will go for all sorts of different crazy picks. So when he gets the opportunity to last pick, counter pick, got to have at least a little bit of concern for what you might end up having to face down as Topo. That Poppy going to get banned away nonetheless. And now with the first pick selection, what does CCG want to go for? There is that Rel, there's that Tristana, a couple options that we talked about that are still available.
I think they're going to opt into the Tristana. maybe it's Tristana or maybe it's the Maokai here. Rel instead. So trying to secure that engaged support, I'm not against this. Like I said, Detro was one of the things that I would love to see him is back on the Rel or an engaged support. So I'm really glad that they get the Rel here on the first rotation. For the answer though, Mirage now has a pretty good opportunity to try and secure some of those strong champions. Tristana could be the play here. It was what CCG went for as the first pick on the red side, but maybe they have another champion that they really want to prioritize.
Yeah, definitely a couple of different selections
Tristana
they could go for. They are going to take that Tristana, so still a flex between bot and mid, but on Mirage, I am almost more tempted to believe it's going to be a mid lane pick for Sudsy. Still, could be flexed around if the situation calls for it. And now I'm even more sure. I mean, that Ziggs lock-in, this is a dangerous duo for taking down turrets incredibly quickly. It's become a big part of the meta, and you can really swap them back and forth however you want, but I think the Tristana mid, the Ziggs bot, is the most common iteration that we end up seeing.
Would be the more logical and typical one. I still think that it's a flex potential, and if teams can play around that more would be great, but I would be willing to go more on your side, Gordo. Tristana mid lane, 6 in the bot lane, and with the fact that the Kai'Sa does get taken away, there's not that many champions that will try and go for the same push value that the 6 does have when they're in the bot lane, so could be a really just late game AD carry that you go for here to try and maybe match in the late game department damage. The Syndra getting picked here, so stealing it from Sudsy, trying to secure the late game damage value as well, and some potential controlling lane in certain situations. Also, the setup that the Syndra does provide can be really good if you go for an aggressive jungler. Could be the Viego here to try and get the same duo of executing targets, or the Lee Sin was the other one that I was looking for, because Kitsu did play really well with the Lee Sin and was one of the ways that they were trying to look for picks.
Yeah, they've at least in a little bit in the season. They brought it out up against Reject Modernity in their previous series, but it's not a pick that's been huge for Kitsuo all season long, so clearly they're favoring it a little bit more. I think he got a couple of little buffs a couple patches ago, but interesting to see how much more they're leaning into this Lee Sin today versus how they've been looking at it over the course of the whole season. But now going to be that Viego locked in for Chad on Mirage, and now they just get to pinch this AD carry pool however they like. The Aphelios gonna get taken away from City Witty, and they could take even another one here. Although that does surprise me, actually. It's Tristana Ziggs, so who exactly is that Aphelios ban directed at?
I think it's just pinching the bot lane pool has to be right. Like, just trying to attack those bot laners as much as possible. The Sayu one makes much more sense just because of the ultimate value, and this way you kind of deny the potential of someone not dying when the damage from the 6, the Viego and the Tristana comes through. And now with the Nautilus, so trying to get as much damage and as much kill potential as possible. The Kindred being hovered. So I don't know if this blade, I think it's going to be Draven, by the way. I think to have that aggressive bot laner to punish the 6 as much as possible, probably going to be the play. But seeing the hovers of the Kindred. So a friend of mine has been telling me that there's Kindred Taric being played in the bot lane. And I'm not sure how real is that, but I would love to see it come through at the very least at some point. It's the Ezreal instead.
We've had some very interesting Taric picks in the ACL too.
Yeah,
so I'm all on board to see some more fancy Taric shenanigans come through, but it is going to be the Ezreal locked in, presumably for City Witty in the bottom lane, although some folks across the pond over in Korea have perhaps been playing a little bit of the Ezreal in the mid lane as well, but True. I'm going to assume it's Syndra mid. I'm going to assume it's Ezreal bot. And now the Maokai actually does end up coming across. That's likely going to be for Topo in the top lane so that they can take this Lee Sin into the jungle. So going to be a cool one to see that comes on across blind. And now it's Alorum's time to shine. What does Alorum pick into Maokai top? It's all right. Well, I hyped you up for nothing, man. That's
we didn't have to think much about it.
I'm a little disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. This is when my guy busts out the Urgot or something crazy. But no, it's just Aatrox, and I don't blame him. It's a very strong champion in the current patch, and it will be a solid matchup up against this Maokai for him to run back what he did up against the Ornn in game number 1.
I was ready for the potential Fiora, being honest, but the Aatrox played really well in the previous game. It's going to be against a tank once again. This tank does have a bit more healing and an easier way of CCing you than the Ornn because of the point and click CC that he gets, but it's still going to be quite effective for the Aatrox to try and get value. I'm more interested looking at the rest of the map because it's kind of similar to what CCG drafted in the previous game, but a bit better in certain locations. I would argue better in bot lane because you're not dependent on winning the bot lane really early on. The poke is going to be close to equal to the 6. I would argue maybe the 6 a bit better, but at the very least, saver AD carry with much potential to try and play it out the longer the game goes without having to worry about him winning or not the early game. And then in the mid lane, much more consistent mid laner. Can be a pick of mid laner, but also can be a team fighting mid laner because of how you play with your spheres. So the composition overall, a bit more consistent, a bit more value towards team fighting, and if they don't fall super massively behind, maybe they can find angles to force team fights in their favor.
Definitely agree with that, but something you got to keep in mind up against a comp like this from Mirage Alliance is that you need to be able to execute every single time. You cannot afford to slip up on some of these plays, coming in, losing the 2v3 bot or something like that. That's really going to be a knife into you if you end up messing something like that up in this game because of that Tristana Ziggs. If you end up down members, if you get out-rotated, or if you have champions dead and just can't rotate alongside Mirage Alliance, you can lose everything in an instant with how much turret damage this Tristana and Ziggs as a duo can bring to the table, and they're just going to eat up those plates and get themselves tremendously ahead just off of that.
Exactly. Going to be really difficult to play for objectives against this Tristana 6 because of the control that they have, and also the tower taking damage. If you and we've seen these sort of trades, I think it was in the ACL, don't remember which exact matchup, where Dragon was an objective, but whilst they're doing Dragon, 2 turrets in the mid lane fall down. So if they try and go for a similar trade in that sense against a 6 Tristana, that's not only going to be 2 turrets, could potentially be 3 because of their tower taking damage and ability to try and go for it. So really important that they keep their wits around how they want to handle objectives, because you cannot give any sort of opportunity for Mirage Alliance to take them down.
Yeah, interesting to note, looking at the in-client draft that's occurring in front of me right now, the Ziggs has been locked in mid lane for Sudsy. So it's looking like Mirage do want to take the Ziggs into mid up against the Syndra and take the Tristana into bot for Neo going up against the Ezreal. I don't hate that iteration. They might just be making me look foolish. They still have the opportunity to swap it back if they like, but I'm going to stand by it. They have no reason to lock them in the wrong order other than to mess with me. So I'm going to believe that they're not doing that in my heart of hearts.
So I'm fine if they go for either side of the matchup. Like, I think Tristana bot lane can be a bit more aggressive onto the Ezreal, so maybe they can find more value there. And 6 can just farm it out down there in the bot lane. So it's not like you need to worry about who do you send down there. And then in the mid lane, maybe the 6 could have a bit of a worrying time against the Syndra with the stun potential, but farming wise, he should be quite safe and barely any difficulty for him as well there. So really, realistically, I can see 6 and Tristana go into either lane without issue.
Yeah, they're definitely both. Well, the Ziggs is super safe, right? The Ziggs can just throw bombs from forever away, and you never really have to worry about him. He's very similar to the Ezreal in that sense, but they might want to try to go a little bit more aggressive onto this Ezreal, especially when he's paired up with the Rel, and they know that they can try to lock down Detro and go for plays there alongside this Nautilus in the bottom lane. So makes sense to me that they're going to choose to allocate Tristana down there and see if they can get that ball rolling early on. We'll have to see how this influences their ability to really try to make stuff happen in the mid lane, because Syndra, not the most mobile of characters. Kitsuo can get over there, or can be prevented from going over there rather, and Shad can come into mid lane, force out this Syndra and get them some space for the Ziggs. They can take that turret real fast using that Ziggs passive, using the satchel charge, and really try to catapult Sudsy ahead of the pace of the game.
Well, the more damage, the more gold they give to the 6, the harder it's going to be to try and deny him. Because one thing that this composition from Mirage Alliance also gives them, it's itemization-wise, it's a nightmare for going against the 6. Do you really want to itemize magic resistance when there's 3 physical damage champions on the other side, and those 3 deal so much physical damage? So realistically, as the Maokai, as the Rel, do you actually want to itemize against the 6 or put more onto the other champions that are going to be a threat? And in that sense, putting the 6 super far ahead with 2 items, you can see champions with getting hit by about 25% of their health bar really effectively by the bomb. So it's going to be really good for the 6 this game, particularly if he gets ahead. Even if he doesn't, he has so much value, and the ultimate can secure kills from such a safe distance as well.
And the thing is, though, is if you don't itemize any magic resistance against the Ziggs, we've seen Mega Inferno Bomb will just one-shot you. I mean, it'll take your whole team out of the fight if he gets a nice one lined up. And if you're not willing to expend some of those mobility tools, you know, at least they've got the Lee Sin and the Ezreal, but Syndra's not getting out of there. Maokai's not getting out of there. If he throws down that R right on top of you, you can't just walk out. You're going to end up taking some of that damage, and that's just assuming that nobody else on Mirage is doing something to corral you into the place where that Mega Inferno Bomb is going to be the most effective.
It's going to be really difficult for them, even with their mobility tools, like you're pointing out. Like one point-and-click ultimate from the Nautilus, followed by the 6 ultimate, could be just the doom of 3 champions. I won't say everyone, because I would argue tanks can survive a bit longer, but at the very least, 3 champions are almost always a threat if the Nautilus ultimate connects on any of them, and followed by the 6 ultimate. Really difficult to try and play around that. Really scary to play around that as well. And I'm really excited to see how Mirage is going to go forward in this game with this comp, and how CCG is going to answer. Kind reminder, CCG playing with 2 E-subs, so not at their full strength, but still they're going to try and play it out the best they can.
Yeah, the loss of those 5 bans really hurting them a little bit there, and losing out on their opportunity to maybe make the most out of what they could have been able to do in this matchup. But it is what it is. They'll have the losers bracket to try to make a run back if they can't turn it around here, but they do of course have the opportunity still to fight back against Mirage and take us to a game number 3. But first things first, as we start to load onto the Rift, we want to shout out our sponsor Coachify down here in the corner. Coachify is a commission-free esports coaching platform currently in open beta. You can become a coach today and track your students, inspire them to succeed, and turn your passion into a career. Click the panel located below the stream to check out their website for some more information. I know we've already gotten a little feature from was it Daption, who's doing a little bit of coaching here on Aegis. We're gonna have more of those coming in the future, hopefully. So been a great time working with Coachify, and thanks again to them for sponsoring this stream.
Exactly. We are so thankful for them to being able to sponsor us, to bring their content affiliated with Aegis. And if you see to my this is right, like over to this side, all these players, they weren't with Coachify, but if you are, you can be against them really soon. So be sure to check Coachify out. They are going to help you, and I'm sure that we will catch you here on Aegis if you do go there.
For sure. As I do want to also shout out, I mean, we've gotten a lot of content coming on through from the Mirage guys. The interview with Alorum just dropped on the Aegis channel. I know.
That's also a good one.
I assume that was Brankles. I didn't actually get to see it yet because it dropped right as we were going live. But those things are usually Brankles. So do want to give Brankles that shout out as we do load onto the Rift. We are getting into game number 2 as CCG Esports are looking to strike back against Mirage.
They want to try and accomplish what they couldn't in the first game, which is take the game away from Mirage Alliance. We're not getting another level 1, and I'm sad about that. Or it looks like maybe not. Actually, look at Nautilus moving a bit forward. They're not going to find anything. Okay, I lied. Sorry, guys.
All right. We are camping in this bush here for Mirage Alliance, looking to see if they can spot a potential delayed invade, but CCG, they're still playing this on the safer side of things. Kitsuo up on the top side, going to be making sure that the river is clear. Doesn't look like anybody's going to be stepping up for any vision. I'm going to keep my eyes on City Witty down here on the bottom side. He's found himself a nice little nestling in that river brush, but has to make sure that Dardoch doesn't find him.
Also, Gordo, it is going to be the 6 in the mid lane and the Tristan in the bot lane. So they weren't playing with us. Yeah, they weren't playing with us at the end of the day.
That's important. That's good. I like a little bit of honesty coming out of Mirage Alliance coming into game number 2 as they're looking to advance themselves further in the playoffs, and some early trading going to come through here between DNA and Sudsy. Not really favoring either side quite yet, but going to be a breakout in the bottom side, trying to knock into Dardoch to start things off. But that explosive charge, it's nothing to scoff at, and Detro takes way more damage than they were able to give out.
They actually did a lot of damage, but because of what happened, the wave kind of gets into a spot where it's going to be much more beneficial potentially for the bot lane from CCG. They are already pushing it, probably will reach level 2 before Mirage Alliance. They're going in.
Dardoch gets knocked aside a little bit, but Detro kind of just finds the same fate that he found the first time. He gets chunked out a little bit, not quite as much as he did the first time around, but still losing out on the trade. Wants to get aggressive, but just a little bit too tanky there. The Nautilus base stats make up all the difference.
Could have been much worse, I agree there, but at the end they do get the push, they get the level 2 earlier, so they are able to thread a bit more. And since Detro didn't die nor blow anything, kind of feels like those trades were forced for a positive attempt. Now Lee Sin coming into the bot side of the map, trying to maybe steal the blue buff away from the Viego. Viego doesn't know this. I don't think chat saw it, so he's going to be a bit late to it.
Yeah, he is going to find him here as he just tries to pay a visit towards his own blue buff. They're likely going to be fighting for it as the smite does come through. Kitsuo picks it up, but now has Chad fighting with him. Detro and Citywitty coming on over. The bot laners getting involved, but Sudsy a little bit faster to the play, comes in with the minefield and picks up first blood as Chad gets his first reset. Staying alive here, doesn't have Heartbreaker yet, but he gets another reset. Standing at 3 as Chad refuses to fall, and Mirage Alliance take 4 for 0 at 3 minutes.
That worked way too perfectly for Mirage Alliance. Early fight, it should have been doomed. They lose out on the early blue buff on the side of Chad. The move as well was coming in first from CCG. The only one that was a bit late was in the mid lane. Syndra was a tad bit late compared to the 6, but overall it should have been a perfect move for CCG. But as soon as everyone collapsed quickly, they get the first kill, and as soon as the first kill comes down, Viego gets the reset, Chad survives, and it works out perfectly. Also important, I'm not sure if this is part of it, but like the last auto attack, I think going into the Viego, we're going to get the opportunity to see this. So overall, it's an invade that I like the idea of because of the pushing in bot lane, but mid lane was getting pushed, so it was going to be hard to engage in it. And then Kitsuo holds it for as long as possible, gaining the blue buff and gaining the advantage there. It was looking like it could be really positive for the side of CCG, but when everyone just commits and because of the bot lane or the mid lane roaming first, they get the most damage out of it. Here is the part that I'm surprised. The last attack onto the remaining target, the Ezreal running away, could have been the difference maker there with the reset, but with Viego surviving so long, it's impossible to miss out on that play, and Mirage gets a huge advantage out of that.
And dare I say, I think it all comes down to Sudsy being able to move first. The fact that Ziggs Burst comes in to take down the first reset for Chad before DNA's even at the play, that just wins it for Mirage straight out. And the fact that Chad doesn't go down at all and there's not even a little bit of a trade back, that's a little bit of fancy mechanics and good solid play from Chad. But the macro and the move coming through first from Sudsy makes all the difference.
And this is why you sometimes see players sack a certain portion of the lane just to be able to move for your jungler. Because these are game-winning plays. These are game-defining plays. If you win those fights out, the game becomes so much more easier for you. And now with this advantage, Mirage, we can ignore top lane because top lane is an island. With this advantage, Mirage can just look to do whatever they want. Maybe not get the scale down here in the bot lane, but still control essentially everything in the map. And I know I want to give CCG the opportunity because no game is over until it's truly over, Gordo. But I've consumed enough Colombian copium already to try and give that much benefit of the doubt. Maybe more?
No, we will see as they're going all in on the Dardoch here.
Oh, they really want this.
Kill, but it's in trade for Detro, so that reset going to allow Neo to get out to safety. As now DNA with a chance to get aggressive here. He's got Unleashed Power. Doesn't see a good opportunity to use it though. Looks like the Dark Sphere was not available. Meanwhile, Chad picks up the dragon on the bottom side.
I think needed one more orb at that point to get enough damage to be able to kill the 6 with an Unleashed Power. So a lucky situation there. Doesn't get the soul kill. Bot lane, they at least trade with a 1-for-1 in that scenario, and both AD carries do collect it. So overall, the gold for CCG, not that bad in that sense. They do lose out on the dragon. The Hextech dragon, really good value that Mirage is getting for the individual dragon. Same as the ocean dragon, potentially soon enough if they get it. And we are now on the potential to get a bat soul, but could not matter that much. Oh,
Ooh, scatter
Close.
and Q combo just barely doesn't land there. As now they're trying to make a play onto Alorum. Topo gets in there with the twisting advance, throws down the ultimate. Alorum has to flash away and use the World Ender for the movement speed. Kitsuo lands the Sonic Wave, but that alone does not get enough done, and Alorum's going to be able to just waltz his way out of there.
yeah, didn't have enough damage there. I was thinking maybe there was a slight opportunity to actually commit for it because Alorum didn't have, I think at that point the Q wasn't on the last stack. It was actually going to reset back to the first one, if I'm not wrong. So could have been a slight opportunity, but respects the Aatrox there a bit more, and they did blow the flash. It's better to just blow the flash and not die than give up a kill to a champion like the Aatrox. The outplay potential is so high on that champion. Oh.
Little fight breaking out on the bottom side here for Mirage. But they're just going to back away, actually. They feel just fine.
Hey, sir, Dardoch, every time we pan towards spot lane, it's Dardoch jumping towards the play. Like, he wants to force something out there, down there.
He really does. He's been playing pretty aggressively this whole series on the Alistar in game number 1 and now in the Nautilus in game number 2. Has constantly been looking for engage opportunities and been up in the face of CCG. Now, not going to present itself quite that time, but you can see everybody's on the edge of their seat. Everybody's expecting Dardoch to try to go in for the play.
You know what I'm expecting or from Dardoch, or not expecting, but maybe thinking if he one time will pull it off, it's if he would be willing to pull off the Warwick support at one point. Maybe not in ACL, but anywhere. Like, I just want to see if he would be willing to play it out. Oh.
Maybe a little bit of a play breaking out here in mid lane. Multiple members of Mirage Alliance paying a visit over, but DNA out to safety, doesn't even have to flash, just gets himself underneath the turret in time. Dardoch is on a ward the whole way through, so they know exactly where this diver is.
They know that he wants to go for this play, and I think it's going to work out anyway.
Wow, he still hits the flash hook, throws down the depth charge, the follow-up damage coming through. Sudsy does not commit the Mega Inferno Bomb, and Alorum is looking for a solo kill up on the top side as here comes Kitsuo trying to turn the play around, but DNA will go down. Mega Inferno Bomb, it's got enough damage. You don't even need to hit the center. It takes out DNA. And that will be another kill in the pocket of Mirage Alliance. And a big kick from Kitsuo back underneath the turret. But Sudsy, he's not tanking it. He gets back away over to his satchel charge. He turns it back around onto Kitsuo. And it's a disaster for CCG. They can't get themselves anything.
That has to be so heartbreaking for Kitsuo. The turret doesn't hit Sudsy in that play. And I've always argued this. Turrets are the most useless thing in League of Legends. They work when they want to, and they don't when you need them the most. And in that situation, they don't work out well for the side of CCG. Sudsy flashes out, gets the perfect angle to just go for the kill, and gets the kill. Turns out it was a masterful bait by Dardoch all along, and they secure the kills thanks to that. They also were pushing into top lane. They don't get the kill onto Topo, but they still have Rift Herald, so could potentially look to try and go for a play. Oh, maybe Chad is dead.
Big collapse onto Chad. He flashes away from the scatter of the week. Now on the bottom side, they found Dardoch, but he's got a big old shield. He's just walking away. Instead, they're going to try to get onto Neo, but he's got rocket jump. He's out of there too. So all that really happens across the map is Chad is forced to flash.
Yeah, they didn't commit more. I'm kind of surprised. Actually, I do think they wanted to commit more, but he used ultimate to escape over the wall. So they couldn't really follow even harder onto Chad. But blowing the flash of Viego, not a bad option, not a bad play, and could be a Sudsy, no
big
flash.
Opportunity onto Sudsy. He is going to use the satchel charge to get out of there, but everything is just going to follow him through. Sonic Wave plus the unleashed power gets CCG a big shutdown kill in the mid lane, and they put it right onto DNA.
And really good and easy execution over there. They really want to go for this.
In the bot lane, City Witty going to flash away, uses all his summoner spells, but denies the reset from coming over to Neo. And that's going to be all it takes to at least stay alive, but not going to have any of those tools here for a while. But big true shot barrage knocks Neo's health down a little bit lower. Dardoch expended plenty for that play as well, so going to just be a bit more farming. Just a little bit of potential for danger in the future, we'll say.
They will have Ignite though on Dardoch, and no summoners left now on the Ezreal, so City Witty has to be extra careful about how he goes. Fight for the dragon though?
All right, breaking out now. It is going to go on over to Chad. The follow-up is going to leave Detro out to try and get over the wall in time. He's going to drop. Nicely played by Mirage, and now they just have to try to get as many bodies out as they can. All in by Kitsuo, though. Blows Neo up, and here's a teleport in from Topo. They can try to get themselves more. Here comes DNA roaming down from mid lane. Teleport, though, is being matched by Alorum, and on this 4-on-4, I don't think Mirage are going to be on the losing side. CCG, they just have to back away.
Yeah, with both top laners going into the play potentially, Chad should be fine here. I don't think he dies. Yeah, no, and shouldn't be enough to be able to get the kill. With both top laners going bot side at the end, it's just a 1-for-1. Great pick from Kitsuo onto the Tristana to find enough value to at the very least salvage something out of that play. But because of the teleport from Topo, it's actually more damaging for CCG because he lost so much CS under turret.
Ooh, good bit of damage comes through. So that's going to be a lot of damage being pumped back out from DNA onto Dardoch and Sudsy, but you gotta respect the burst potential of this duo if they just pair their ultimates up together. Here comes the Rift Herald, going to be looking to crash into mid lane, and we'll get 2 turret plates back into the pockets of Chad.
Exactly. Doesn't go anything into the 6, but giving plates to the Viego has almost always worked out, so I'm not against the fact that they gave essentially everything to Chad in that play. And they almost got a kill as well onto the Syndra. DNA has to be extra careful because he's hitting a lot of the poke damage. We have seen the Syndra essentially be able to kill the target, but you still have to be careful about how you go about it. Oh.
Another look on the Neo, but he's got flash, he's got rocket jump, he is as safe could be when there's only 2 up here. As Dardoch
really won this.
going in for the play on Detro. They can lock him down for long enough for Neo to get the reset, and they're just gonna melt him down. Mirage gets themselves another one in the bottom lane. It's now Chad making a play in mid. Good flash away from DNA to avoid the Heartbreaker, but stun doesn't land onto Chad, and Chad is not done
really
fighting, but he should have been. Kitsuo, a big flash, Dragon's Rage back into the turret to get another kill for CCG.
Exactly. Chad does not respect what the side of CO. Neither did DNA. They didn't respect the damage from the opposite side, and at the end, it turns into a 1-for-1 and a turret in favor of Mirage Alliance.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, right? Is if you don't hard win the plays, then Ziggs and Tristana are going to make you pay in the structures front.
Yep.
And they end up losing themselves another turret as Dardoch just looking for action so much. Again, finds his way onto Kitsuo, and he might just get blown up here. I don't think the shield is enough. Neo gets the kill.
Up goes the Lee Sin. Really easy kill to get there. They have Vision, they have the Hex Flash, they just commit to the kill, and they get another one for Neo. This game is looking slightly similar to the previous one. I would argue even better, although Alorum doesn't have a much bigger lead onto the Maokai. Like, he doesn't have any kill. It's quite high, don't get me wrong, but no kill on the Aatrox just yet. But on the rest of the map, it's completely in Mirage's favor.
Yeah, I mean, Alarum's having the solo queue dream right now. He's sitting up there, he's 0-0-0 in top lane, and his team's 8k gold ahead. This is like, all right, guys, you just keep it up. I'll be up here. Let me know if you need me. As Topo, kind of on the opposite side of that same coin, he's trying to do everything he can to turn this game around as it's falling apart. Speaking of which, in mid lane, Sudsy gets himself another one.
I'm kind of glad, like, this is such a passerby game in a way for Mirage because they know that they can win this out so well. Oh, wait, Alorum has to be careful.
All right, going on in, going to just focus him down, and that's a shutdown picked up for Kitsuo. He had enough of a CS lead to have the shutdown, and that gives more gold back into Kitsuo's pockets. He's going lethality Lee Sin, so he's going to be happy about that one. But Sudsy, look at that damage. The satchel charge nearly kills them both, and now Heartbreaker coming across. Chad going to be able to finish off one. The other gets sniped down by Sudsy, and Mirage Alliance have themselves 2 more.
And in the meanwhile, botlane was just pushing, so they get a free turret down there as well. They control the map for Mirage is so high. Maybe a play into Chad and Heaven and Sudsy teleport behind them.
Yeah, wait for the play. City has to flashback away. They get the damage onto Chad. He is going to drop. Now it's going to be Detro advancing forward, but Alorum gets one big slam down to finish off the kill, and he just tanks up that unleashed power like it's nothing. And here's Sudsy raining down the bombs, taking himself another and focusing forward onto City Witty. Another big darkened blade from Alorum does most of his remaining health, and it's an easy pickup from there. And now Topo desperately trying to fight it back out, wants the trade back onto Sudsy, wants that shutdown gold for the side of CCG, but it's just going to be Alorum that he has to settle for.
Alorum may have died in that play, but he came in to support both his jungler and mid laner, and thanks to that, Sudsy escaped. But this 6, it's such a monster. And we talked about this in draft, by the way. 2 items, no resistances against the 6. Guess what's going to happen? Your health is going to be so little in comparison. He essentially almost one-shots the Lee Sin with the ultimate when Alorum first died up there. So this 6 is such a big menace. They have so much control over the map already. They got a couple of turrets in the bot lane as well. This Rift Herald, it's just a consolation prize at this point for CCG, because whatever else is happening in the map, it's certainly not in their favor.
Yeah, it's really just favoring Mirage Alliance each and every time. They are just getting their gold lead bigger and bigger each and every time, even though the kill count doesn't look as one-sided as it might have once looked. It's still Mirage picking up every objective. They're on Soul Point now. They've already got themselves 5 turrets to 0. Let's see if CCG can do anything to turn that back. They're collapsing onto Sudsy. 4 members on the top side. Detro going to drop. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but Sudsy does give over huge shutdown money to Kitsuo.
Exactly. Technically speaking, it's a much more valuable trade for CCG until this point, though.
All right, Alorum just going to pop that World Ender and going to look to advance forward in the 3-on-3, and Neo starts his reset train, moving forward, crits down City Witty, and he can just keep resetting, goes forward onto DNA, and takes him down for the triple kill. Neo is popping off in this fight and keeps on Mirage marching forward.
Gordo, Baron is not even up. They are so far ahead. I thought they could go for Baron, but looking at the clock, they can't because it's not even up. They're going to get another turret, maybe? Yeah, top lane wise, they're going to get another turret. Tristana is pushing by herself, but they just simply have everything they want in the map. They can say whatever the hell they want. They can do whatever the hell they want because they are winning this game so handedly. There's nothing that CCG can do at this point. If we want to see for potential CCG comeback, they have to find a perfect pick. In the next 5 minutes, they have to find 5 perfect picks, better said. Yeah, and even then, I'm not sure.
It's doomed. It's a little doomed here. We'll see. They did deny the Magi stacks from Sudsy, so he is a little bit weaker. You know, he spent money on an item that isn't giving a full item's worth of gold. So that's a little bit, you know, knock that off the gold lead right there. Maybe it's more like 11K instead of 12K.
Yeah, technically speaking, right? The trade was Sudsy for Detro until everyone else died. But until that point, that was the perfect trade. So
it's good if he can just keep making that trade. But next time do it for Neo, because Neo's got the 1K gold shutdown on him. That's really where you're going to want to be picking up your money's worth. If you could keep making those trades, though, that'll be huge. And there are plenty of big objective bounties on the map. So you can win a miracle fight, you can cash out, you can cut this gold lead probably about in half. At the very least, they are going to try to get this one on the bottom side. Wow. That's not even Baron. That's Rift Herald. Baron's not up for 8 more seconds, but CCG are all in on it.
Yeah, it's Baron. It's 20-minute Baron. But I'm pretty sure CCG kind of gave up on that and are looking just for the gold because they know that they cannot contest.
This is a fast 20-minute Baron. This is going down
why.
real quickly. I guess it's because it's 3-item Tristana. If they stole that with True Shot Barrage, that would have been big. Didn't happen, but now just going to move forward, and they are actually going to get themselves 2 turrets of objective bounties here. Pretty good play there by CCG. I think they come out gold positive.
Exactly. Objectively speaking, macro-wise, this was the best play CCG could go for because there's no chance in hell they get the Baron. Maybe a kill?
Okay, Alorum is in this 1-on-2. He's going all in, though. He wants to take down DNA. One more Darkened Blade will do it, and that's the reset on the World Ender. He can take Topo down, too, and Alorum feeling himself on the bottom side. He was 0-0-0 for a very long time. He wants to leave this game with a positive KDA. He's going to move up to 3-2 as Mirage Alliance are finishing the game in the base. 5 versus 2. Huge engage from Detro. Magnet Storm on anybody, but there's no fall follow-up available. Kitsuo has to just Dragon's Rage him back to try to keep City Witty in the game, but nobody's going to be in this game for very much longer. TDS, it's looking like it's going to be a 21-minute win for Mirage Alliance as they continue to farm up kills and move themselves to the winner's final.
Whoever hit the Nexus there should be reported. That was another kill for Neo and improving his KDA. That is bad team play right there. I have no more hope for Mirage Alliance after that. They are not going to win this. If they get that kill, maybe, but now they certainly are not going to win the ACO. But apart from that, that was such a dominating game. Like game 1 and 2, I would argue obviously game 1 had a bit more chance and hope for CCG. This game 2 had almost nothing of hope in my eyes. You could argue maybe there was one play that could have been the hope for CCG, which was that early jungle fight. If they win that out, or at the very least, if they find a counter trade in the process in that four-man invade, then maybe the game looks a bit different. But 4-0 start for CCG, for Mirage, they get everything they want, and then the game goes out of control.
Absolutely, absolutely. So congratulations, Mirage Alliance. You're moving on to that best of 5 winner side final. CCG, they are not out of contention yet. They will be dropping down to the losers side. I believe it'll be the losers semis where they are playing their next series. That will also be a best of 5. Their opponent still to be determined, but a really dominant showing there for Mirage Alliance. And this, granted, it's assuming a regular CCG roster with 5 bans and the team that's performed thus far, the synergy they've built up over the course of this season. But this was my finals prediction, so it is looking real bright for Mirage Alliance and their opportunities to potentially take this league.
Exactly. Whoever wanted Mirage Alliance to be the champions, or whoever thought Mirage was going to be the champions, these are the kind of steps you want them to see. Like, CCG was in an uncomfortable spot because of the ESOPs and having obviously no bans and the way that they had to play. But if that's the case, Mirage Alliance should look like this, right? This is how they should be playing, because technically this should be the easier way to win against CCG, and they summed them out of the game so dominantly. So for any Mirage Alliance fans, this is a good sign for the future, and for anyone that wants to see the CCG roster actually playing in the grand finals, then for Mirage Alliance to be your opponent, this was also the best outcome, or technically one of the closest outcomes, because that way, at the very least, there's an opportunity for Mirage Alliance and CCG to find themselves in the finals, in the grand finals.
All right. Well, we are going to have an interview coming up with Dardoch from Mirage Alliance. So we're going to throw it to a quick break here while we get that set up, but we'll be back in a couple of seconds to hear from Dardoch. Welcome back, everybody, to the Aegis Champions League. We are rejoined by Dardoch from Mirage Alliance, fresh off a 2-0 win and a trip to the winner's side final. Congratulations, Dardoch. Were you coming into the night expecting to get such an easy berth into the winner's side finals?
Yeah, honestly, I think everybody on our team kind of expects to win, and we're always very ready to compete for every match we play. So no different this time around, but hopefully the finals will be a little bit more competitive.
All right, I do want to ask a little bit. You got Normology is always in the chat, BMing for you guys. Does that put a little bit of extra pressure on, or do you guys enjoy having having somebody from the org just coming in to keep guaranteeing that you guys are going to be getting the win?
Oh, I mean, Norm does his fair share of pressuring us in the Twitch chat and in our Discord general chat. The guy doesn't let us know how much he wants us to win enough, honestly. He should do it a little bit more if possible.
Yeah, at least he's invested, right? He's always there with everything. Probably.
Oh no, yeah, he's a great owner. He's always around for literally anything we need. Every practice day, he's around. Whether or not he's like actually there actively or just on call, ready for anything we need if something comes up. But he's definitely extremely invested.
Honestly, it's honestly great to see that sort of support, and it clearly shows also in the Twitch chat, just consistently appearing and throwing messages, even if it's banter or anything like that. It's great to see. And I kind of want to jump a bit on also on the idea of the pressure that you guys feel, because not only here, obviously, are kind of the clear favorites for a lot of the people that are around the ACL, but also just in general because of the aura or the players that the team has from coming from NACLQ also. Like, does that pressure amount to anything when going into any of these matches, knowing that there's so much clear favoritism towards you guys?
That definitely plays into it. I think the majority of our pressure in the first OQs was definitely mostly surrounding our name value that our roster has, and the experience that most of our players have. But I think mainly this OQ2, the pressure got increased even more because we lost in such honestly, it was a really cringe way to lose. I'm not gonna lie, like it still bothers us a lot as a team, and we definitely need to make up for it going forward in these next matches for the OQs. But it definitely made our team a lot stronger, and it made us also get a lot closer as players and as a teammate. So hopefully it's all going to be for the better by the time the relegation and stuff comes around.
Right, all right. I do want to ask you a little bit about the circumstances coming into tonight's matchup. So CCG have to field 2 emergency substitutes. They come in with no bans as a result. How does that change how you guys come into the draft? Obviously, 5 bans against 0 bans, not really a situation that you probably play a lot of competitive matches on. Does that throw things off for draft at all, or did you guys have like a pretty straightforward game plan of like, well, we get whatever champion we want on blue side, and we kind of get free reign of the draft. We know exactly what we want given those facts.
Yeah, it was kind of OP on blue side because Kai'Sa's kind of the best champ in the whole game right now, and you can kind of just not ban Kai'Sa and then pick it as blue. So that was kind of unfair in the first game. And in both games, honestly, we had things in mind that we would have, in most cases gotten banned 4-5. Like in the first game, they picked Rel, and we were already looking at Alistar in 4-5, and we're just it just comes up funnily in draft. Hey, they don't have 4 or 5 bans, so we're going to get Alistar no matter what. And then it happened again in the second game where we're getting Nautilus when we really should never get Nautilus in 4-5. It is unfortunate. I'm not going to say that I think the series would have changed if they had 5 bans in both games, but it definitely played in our favor, of course.
And speaking a bit about the supports that you were able to play, we were talking about this during the game and out of the game as well, with how like unhinged it felt like you were going in as the supports, just forcing the fights and making them happen a lot. And obviously this is your first year, I would argue, playing professionally to a certain degree, playing professionally as a sport, right? And in that sense, has it allowed you to be more like aggressive with your playstyle, like be more unhinged with what you want to try and accomplish, going from jungle to support? And also another just quick add-on on top of that, do you have any like off-meta supports that you would want to play, knowing that like when you were in the jungle, you were more willing to go for those off-meta champions as well?
I'd say if I was to play any off-meta support, I'd probably go more towards like Pyke or Blitzcrank. I think those two are probably my most favorite to play, that are still within the reason of being meta. I think on the topic of being a jungler, I could also probably play Bel'Veth support in some angles, but I don't want to terrorize Neo too badly. But I think the transition to support for me overall has been really easy. Thankfully, I'm paired with a lot of very skilled players on my team, and especially with my lane partner Neo, he's extremely skilled to the point where I wouldn't put many players on the entire server above him, let alone anybody we're meeting in these OQs or these tournaments we're playing in. So I'm not gonna lie, I do have it good. My teammates are exceptional, and especially Neo helps me a lot with the transition phase. I think mostly what I needed to learn was laning phase, and nowadays I have a very good grasp on what I'm doing in lane, and then also I have a very deep champion pool with support. So I think my swap overall has been pretty successful, but I attribute that mostly to my teammates.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Did want to ask you. You've been pretty vocal about kind of turning over a little bit of a new leaf, both with support and wanting to kind of change the reputation that you felt like has followed you a little bit from the LCS days. What's kind of your goals going forward in regards to playing as a support? Like, are you trying to, obviously you guys are trying to qualify for NACL. Are you intending to try to make it back to LCS as support? Do you want to play CLOL as support? Like, how far does this role swap and this kind of change of identity really take you?
I'd say at the moment I'm just focused on what's in front of us right now. So I'd say we're just planning on promoting to NACL and then trying to win that league as well. So those are our immediate goals. If an LCS offer comes in my lap, coming forward that, has me playing support, then, I'm not one to deny that. And I certainly do believe I'm still at that level of play. But for now, like I said, I'm just focused on what's right in front of us for Mirage Alliance.
All right. Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, thanks so much for joining us here, Dardoch. Want to give the last word over to you. Anybody you want to shout out? Anything you want to say to those tuning into the Aegis stream before we close on out for the night?
No, just shout out to my teammates. Shout out to Rourke and Normology for being the staff we need to continuously compete at a high level. So that's all.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, man. Always appreciate getting to hear from you. And thank you, everybody at home, for tuning in to tonight's stream. That is going to do it for the Aegis Champions League on the night. We are going to be back throughout the week with more Aegis Leagues. We'll be back on Monday for a losers bracket matchup as we continue to amp up towards those grand finals. And that's going to do it for the broadcast. So thank you again from myself, from TDS, from Caddy on Production, and from Coachify for sponsoring the league. And we will see you again next time.